Welcome to the Dominate Your Niche podcast with me, Ruth Ferreira. Here we chat to some of today's best small business leaders, individuals who are shaking up their industry and dominating their niche. The show tackles all things business growth, from strategy, marketing and branding, and delves into the secrets of what it takes to dominate your niche. The aim of this podcast is to empower founders with big dreams, small and micro businesses, and even solopreneurs who are looking to make a big impact. People who are hungry to learn from those who have gone before them and implement that knowledge to next level in their own business. So welcome, lean in, and then go take action to propel yourself towards dominating your niche in your small business. Welcome to the latest episode of the Dominate Your Niche podcast with me, Ruth Ferreira. Today, I'm excited to introduce you to Andy Coley, leadership expert, keynote speaker, development trainer, and author of the new, hopefully best-selling book, Leadership is a Skill. Key themes that we covered in today's conversation include investing in yourself and your development, publishing a book to consolidate your authority, the role of emotional intelligence in being a better leader, the role of coaching in overcoming mental health challenges, and the ripple effect, knowing that your impact goes far, far further than you realize. A beautiful and also quite emotional conversation at the end. I can't wait for you to listen. Hi, Andy. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey there. How you doing?
Really good, thanks. Delighted to have you on here today. So, Andy, you are a leadership development expert and you specialize in the tech and gaming industries. So I'd love to know a little bit about your journey and how did you come to position yourself within this niche?
Thanks for having me on here. It's great to get the chance to come and speak. So I started off very much in the sort of tech and web development sectors. I was always pretty good at computing at school. It was a subject that I enjoyed. And so I was really lucky to get a degree with IBM. And so they actually paid me to go to university, which is brilliant.
Wow.
I know,
You don't hear about that much anymore, do you?
No, definitely. We're talking the end of the 90s here, so it's quite a while ago. So I did a computer science degree. I was employed by IBM to do that, but it meant I got one out of uni a sort of year quicker, I guess, than my sort of colleagues who were doing a 2 years, then a year in industry, then another year. But it kind of just meant I was really interested in the sort of tech and coding side of things. But I also got a lot of exposure to the business because I was working in a department, working in a team, had some, really good manager in the team, and went from there to then start working. Once I graduated and worked at IBM for a little while, but kind of had enough after sort of 3 or 4 years of high corporate stuff working with IBM. So then I went and worked up at Goldman Sachs, but for a friend of mine who was a contractor there. And that was a really enjoyable time. I loved working in the building and with the people and doing the work. But what I hated was the commute because I used to live in Portsmouth.
Oh my goodness.
At the same time, I met my friend who worked up in London and running this team up in Goldman's at Fleet Street. He also met my now ex-wife at the same time. And at the time it was a new relationship and wanted to see where it was heading, and also had this opportunity for this job. So I was commuting, spending an awful lot of time on a train.
I can imagine.
Every day. Towards the end of working up there, I was even getting the 4:20 train out of Portsmouth in the morning to try to make sure I could get out there for 7 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, that must have been a brutal existence.
That was, yeah.
And
I read
different.
a lot of books.
Quite different because now, fast forward however many years, you do the school run many days, don't you?
Oh, yes.
You've got young kids who need taken to school. So how did you end up moving from this sort of sounds like a very intense corporate life to where you are today? How did you end up in the leadership sector? And
I think a lot of the time when I'm coaching and working with people, because that's what I do now, I've sort of moves from being sort of tech development then into people development, helping people reprogram themselves rather than doing
Very similar.
websites. Yes. Well, to be fair, websites do what they're told. So people
Yes.
people are a bit less keen on that. But really, it was through fundamentally going through, I guess, a time in life when I needed to have a lot of coaching and a lot of support. And I got really fascinated about that process, the way that people change their minds.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm out there working within organizations, I see so many team members who wish they had a better leader or were being led better. And I see
Mm-hmm.
so many leaders out there who wish their teams would do what they were told, or that they could, invigorate them or delegate
Wow.
to them.
And they don't understand the disconnect between the two.
Exactly. So you got leaders that want to connect with a team. You've got team that want to be connected to with their leaders, and sort of it seems
No
like the
one's
two are
bridging
just
that gap.
yeah, exactly. And so that was really the sort of bit that started to get me fascinated in leadership development, and then to ultimately get it down into book form and get a book out there around leadership as well, because that that for me is like anything that helps to give leaders more skill in leadership can't be a bad thing. There's a stat out there it's on the managers.org.uk website that says that 82% of leaders and managers have never had any formal leadership training.
82%.
82%.
God, how is our country still running?
Because everyone's making it up as they go along,
And how's that
and
going for them?
well, what,
Better
the
for some
country,
than others.
or we're not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Let's not start. Let's not start.
It's one of
Okay.
those things I think we're expected to just be good at. You get promoted to the next position, you've been there long enough, you're one of those kind of accidental leaders or emerging leaders, and leadership's just a thing that you're gonna start getting good at. And for some people, yes, it is, and of course, but that's not true about all aspects of leadership and management.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you moved from a very techie role into leadership.
Yeah.
But specializing within that tech and gaming sector. How did you get visible and start booking your dream clients within this sector? What were the strategies you used?
So some of it, particularly the gaming sector, I've got a really good piece of work with a company called Ubisoft, which they do the Assassin's Creed games for those that are gamers, and lots of other games. They're quite a big company, 18,000 people around the world, or they had. There's been a lot of layoffs in the industry recently, but I got approached to do some work around professional boundaries. They wanted some work to help their team members feel safer in the interactions that they were having with players. So
Wow,
this
okay.
is the marketing, the community management teams for those that are working with the influencers and that kind of stuff. And that was a really nice big chunk of work that I did. Took about 300 people through a training course all the way from UK across to Australia. That was sort of some early mornings and some late nights just to factor in all the different time zones and things.
And was that all working over Zoom, or did you do any of that
was
in
all that was
person?
all over Teams. No, that was all over Teams,
Oh,
and that was
sorry, Teams, the
yeah,
other one.
the other one. Sorry, yes, we're not. Are we sponsored by Zoom now? Is
We're
it?
not sponsored by Zoom, although
Yet,
if they're
yet.
open, I am so up for that
Definitely
conversation.
make that happen. We'll then bleep out the word Teams. I mean, sorry, bleep. So yeah, so that was all done remotely. Yes. And then I went along to a games conference down in Brighton just for one of the days. I met a few other people there, got a few introductions, and said, "Oh, this is a nice network. These are kind of my people, the sort of technically logical, people that are just that little bit quirky and different." And then started to go back to meetings, get involved in networks, go along to networking events, and basically created a brand called Game Studio Training that then made it look like I specialized very much into the tech and gaming. By the way, I do much more than tech and gaming.
I know.
I work a lot in healthcare, and all sorts of other sectors that I've worked.
I've seen your, I'm going to say CV. I've not actually seen your CV, but I've seen your speaker bio, and there are some very impressive names on there. So congrats.
Yeah.
So what is the one thing you wish you'd known before you embarked on your business journey? Because it's very different going from being employed by a massive organization to essentially having to build your business build your own personal brand and get out there yourself?
I think the biggest thing, I mean, I've worked for myself for probably in some form, either as a director or solopreneur or some form like that for a good 20 plus years now. But I think the main thing is getting out of being a hobby business and into one that actually makes money.
Ooh, tell me more
It's,
about that.
well,
Because there's definitely listeners that need to hear this.
yeah,
Be kind.
it's very easy to do work either very cheaply or for free, or because you love it so much, you want to help everybody. This is usually true for coaches and everybody else that are charging not very much per hour. It's one of those things where it's very easy to do stuff and not make much from it or not make enough from it. And to really, really sit down and be honest with yourself and go, what is it I want to be taking out the business? What is it I need to be earning? What is it that I'm looking to achieve? What's my big ambition and goal? And I wish I had invested better in people like yourselves, business coaches, supporters, mentors earlier on in my sort of solopreneur journey. For so many years, I was just doing it on my own, doing stuff like BNI networking and getting good networks, and all those things have really helped. I mean, I'm always a big advocate for those sort of networks like BNI. When I was a web developer, that was a great network for me to be in. So I think investing back into the mentors and the supporters and the people that know a bit more about what they're doing, and then and this is the bit that I probably still suffer the most is the implementation of what you know. We
Yes.
all know loads. If we
Yes.
actually did something with it,
Yes.
it
Even
would be
like
so
even
much
if we did
better.
a fraction of what we
Yes,
know.
yes,
Oh
we
my
would make a
goodness.
massive difference to our
This is
business.
resonating with so many people. I reckon like
Yeah,
90% of the listeners right now are
yeah.
having that
So
inner
so so
twinge.
so the importance of that 90 minutes a day. There's a guy, Nigel Botterill, you might know from Entrepreneur Circle.
Oh, I know the name,
Yeah,
yeah.
he talks about 90 minutes a day, always be working somehow, on your business for 90 minutes a day.
I love
Yeah,
it.
and make that a massive part of it, whether it's your marketing, your branding, your product, your whatever it is. And remember, business requires four main legs of the table, really. You need a team around you that really support you and help you implement, whether that's a VA or some raving fans or whatever that happens to be, some form of team. You need a good product and you need to be able to sell it and market it. And if you get those four
Yes,
things right, then you've got a business. If you haven't got any
absolutely.
of those things, then you won't really have a business. You've got a hobby.
Yes. Yes. And I should say, I'm just going to go with a cheeky little shameless self plug for anyone who has a hobby that they want to make more into a business. I have a fantastic course that can help you do that. So, today, talking of shameless self plugs, today's an exciting day for you, Andy. Tell
It
me,
is. Yes, it is my book launch day. So
book
my book,
launch day.
yeah, my
You've
book
written a
came out
book.
today. I
Yeah,
have written a book.
congratulations.
I may have mentioned it earlier.
May have,
Um,
may
yeah,
have
so
snuck in.
it's called Leadership is a Skill. And yeah, that came out today, which is when we're recording 24th of February, we're recording this. So
Congratulations.
we'll
And yes, it's going to be probably a couple of weeks later when this
yeah,
episode
yeah.
comes out, but within a month, I'm hoping.
And so it's very much for those emerging leaders, for those that have been promoted into position, for those business owners as well that recognise that there's always something to learn. Now, remember, learning is knowledge plus experience. Just finding out about something, getting knowledge about something is great. Reading a book, going on a course, doing reading something interesting, watching a TikTok video, whatever it happens to be. Until you do something with it, then that doesn't really become learning.
Yes.
So this book is very much a sort of how-to guide around finding out more about yourself, finding out more about communication, handling conflict, all the sort of 101 skills that a good manager stroke leader needs. And it's very much a sort of amalgamation of what I teach when I'm running courses, when I'm talking at events and conferences, and just from having lots and lots and lots of conversations every year with employees and employers, and knowing about knowing about the frustrations of both, really.
I love it. I love it. So, for anyone who is interested to learn more in this field, There will be a link in the show notes. Go and check it out. I have just started reading it. I mean, I'm about 10 pages in, but it's golden so far. Are you ready to grow your business this year? Join me for Supercharge Your Month, a 60-minute clarity and strategy workshop to reflect, plan, and get super strategic to make your growth dreams a reality. The first Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m. for just £97, or free if it's your first time. My gift to you. Book on now via the show notes. See you there. So, what was the point of writing this book? What are you hoping to achieve from that?
I mean, there's a couple of points of writing it. I've got the point of writing it to give people that knowledge about the contents of the book and to know that it's okay to not know.
Yeah, and to spread your message further. To impact people who may never have the joy of learning from you in person.
Yeah, so that's really what the content is designed for. And then the other side of the book is obviously it's a business card.
Yes, it's the best business card.
Yeah, it's effectively out there so that when I'm at events, when I'm speaking at conferences, when I'm giving talks, when people are, running stuff with me in-house and give a copy of the book away as well, that book will sit on a shelf, get thumbed through every so often.
Yeah.
Will stay in that person's house as they move from organization to organization. That'll get me back in to be able to run a lunch and learn session.
It brands you more into their subconscious because we never throw out a book.
Yeah.
So I am, obviously this is an audio only podcast, but just behind me, Andy, you can see a load of beautifully organized in a rainbow business books.
Yeah.
And honestly, there is a book in there which is absolutely shite. There is one book, I'm not going to tell you which color, I'll tell you after, but somebody I met who sent me their book.
Yeah.
And it's rubbish. I just could not get on with it, but it's still sitting on my bookshelf. And every time I see it, I think about that person, not necessarily in a good way, but imagine if it had been a good book. So I've also got amazing books there. Like, there's literally some of the great of small business books are literally like 1.5 meters from me at the moment.
Yeah.
And it just reminds us about that person because we see those books day in, day out on the bookshelf. So yes, it really is one of the best things that you can do in terms of future-proofing and branding yourself into somebody's go-to experts for your niche. So congratulations.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, people can call themselves experts at this and whatever, but it's authors, still has that extra bit of credibility, I think, as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And one of the reasons why I went with Rethink Press as the publisher was because they're a hybrid author. So I didn't get paid to write my book. Nobody's out there going, "Oh my God, we must know some more about leadership."
Yes,
there aren't enough leadership books in the world right now. And at the same time, it's not also self-published. So I came across I got a ping. I've got stuff that pings up when my name pops up onto Google. It sends me a little Google alert, and it's like, W.H. Smith has got your book for sale.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
So I could now walk into a W.H. Smith's and order my own book, or a Waterstones. And you don't get that.
That must feel amazing. That must feel so validating.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that that sort of I know that a lot of entrepreneurs dream of being able to see their book in the airports and that kind of stuff. One step closer to achieving that. Today's aim is get the Kindle out there and get to #1 in category and be able to stick that bestseller, sticker on everything.
I love it. I love it. I
mean, and it's a bit
can you only have a bestseller sticker if you're #1? Does #2 not cut it?
No, it's #1.
Oh God. Okay.
One.
I'm going to help you push as soon as we get off here.
It's #2 right now. But
okay.
It is lagged by about 3 or 4 hours. So I think we will have achieved it.
Awesome. Well, go.
But it's a bit like being a speaker and a trainer and having done a TEDx. It's another one of those things that it gives you positioning, and that's what people are after from a business perspective. It's not just what do you say about yourself, but what do others say about you, or what have you been invited on from that perspective as well.
Love it. And we're going to look back to your TEDx later. But while we're on the topic of books, I would love to know, as a now published author, congratulations, what other books have been influential in your journey for business or personal development?
I I mean, I like some of the aspects of books like Atomic Habits by
Mm-hmm.
James Clear.
Yep,
Um,
powerful book.
that's a great, powerful book around, the small changes, and I love stuff like the 1%. I talk about that in my book, obviously referencing his, and just the power of the small adjustments that make a big difference over time.
Yep.
I also love the thing about habit stacking that's in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So habit stacking is like if you want to introduce a new habit, stack it on top of another habit that you already do. You want to remember to take your medication in the morning, stick it next to your kettle.
Yes, I
Like,
see far too much in my kettle.
yeah, one thing equals another, and then that starts to create a new habit. That's really helpful around exercise or life or whatever that happens to be. Can I
Love
swear on
that.
this
And
am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
yes, you wouldn't be the
Brilliant.
first in this episode.
That's good. So there's another one. I'm trying to remember the author. I might look it up
Oh,
in a
it's an
second.
orange book, isn't it?
No. So
Oh no.
the other one is called "Fuck It: The Path
Oh,
to Spiritual Enlightenment."
oh, I want to read that.
It's
Okay.
it's F star star K it. And it's a book with a candle on the front. I can't remember the author's name right now.
Okay.
But my wife, because I did get married again, by the way, and have
Congrats.
kids. My wife now, Sophie, she got it for me because I think she thought it'd be a useful parenting book. But basically, it's all about like when we can't control what's happening for us right now, just go, well, fuck it, I can't do anything about it. This meeting's not going how I wanted it to go. Oh, fuck it, right, just let it go.
I love
This
it.
day, this half term, this moment in the
Oh my
playground,
goodness. And yeah, with
do I need to
kids.
struggle against it, or just
Oh,
fuck it, whatever,
I'm gonna read that book.
so that was that. I think that also from that point of view of stop sweating the small stuff,
Hmm.
was is actually a really good book about life and business and
Yes, I love that. I love
relationships.
that. Okay, so we are all leaders in some form or another, whether we are big corporate leaders or we are influential within our sphere, or at the very least, a lot of us are parents, and that is a whole thing of leadership in itself. So, what advice would you have for somebody who's looking to improve their leadership skills?
Wow,
What
I
are your
mean, obviously
top
buy my
tips
book.
to be?
I mean,
But if you were going to just give them something on this podcast, what would it be?
so I think the key thing is work on your emotional intelligence. It's such a useful skill in life and leadership in general. And the four main aspects of emotional intelligence I talk about is first of all self-awareness. So becoming aware of why and how you're feeling right now. Like what's the
Mhm.
thing that happened just before I felt like this feeling?
Mm,
What was the trigger point? What's the thing that's that's creating how I'm feeling? Being aware that my state's a bit off, or that I'm feeling a bit down, or that
mm.
I'm really excited about something. Like
Gosh, a
what
lot
is
of
the thing
leaders
that
could
created that?
benefit from that awareness alone.
Yeah.
That could make a massive impact.
Yeah. The next one is then how do I regulate myself when I'm feeling in a particular state? So that
Hmm.
self-regulation is the next one. If I'm angry or frustrated or upset, what do I do with that? How do I, stop passing it on to other people, or deal with it, or let it go, or fuck it, like what do I
Amazing.
what I do with that? The self-regulation. Then it's the social skills, the social awareness. How am I showing up into the world? What effects is that having on other people around me?
Hmm.
And relationship management. How do I build good relationships with other people and my team? And I
Amazing.
think if people had more awareness of that, of themselves, of how they control and let go of their emotions, particularly if they're sort of frustrating or particularly destructive emotional states, or I mean, and those emotional states might be that I want to avoid having a difficult conversation, or that I'm disappointed in something having gone wrong. Like, how do you deal with those things?
Hmm.
And then yeah, the other bit about working with other people and being aware of other people as well. I think those four key elements are really vital things to just start to pay some attention to. And that can be journaling, that can just be being a bit introspective about something. Give yourself a bit of time when something's just happened to debrief the something before
Mm.
piling straight onto the next thing.
Brilliant advice there, Andy. Honestly, as I was saying earlier, like I'm right at the start of your book, but I cannot wait to get further. This sounds absolutely golden. So, in your TEDx talk, You share about a very dark time in your life. And what I'd love to know is how has this influenced the person you are today?
Yeah, it's massively influenced who I am today. In the TEDx, I talk about the time when my first marriage was coming to an end. Basically, we've been married for 11 years, and we were still living together, sort of separate rooms, separate lives by that point. And we'd tried to, get things right, but there was something just with me being an avoider of conflict, not being able to have difficult conversations, being a poor communicator, probably a little bit of a rescuer syndrome, a white knight, I'm going to save this thing and I don't want to upset you. Basically, very narcissistic tendencies that I hadn't even realized, didn't even know what that word meant at the time. I think I was just doing the best that I could.
Mm-hmm.
And as that was sort of coming to an end, I'd had a business where that had just gone bust and we had to let 10 people go. And I was really,
Oh
really,
gosh.
really rubbish leader. And we'd had money that I'd put in and friends had put in and an angel had put in to this business. And again, we were just rubbish leaders, not really skilled at being able to manage teams or delegate properly or even be able to sort of hold our hands up and go, do you know what, we just can't, we've bitten off more than we can chew. We're
Mm,
not the right people for this project. Um, and then I was also 23 stone in weight, and so my health wasn't great. I was working all the time. I was depressed. I was, just when you do like one of those wheel of life things, and you look at all those different aspects of your life. Like my health was really bad, my business was really bad, my relationship was really bad. Family and some friendship parts were okay, but I had no purpose in my life, and just basically felt like why the hell am I even bothering to be here? And that's the
wow.
kind of point I'd got to in my life. And there was an October evening when I was driving back to the house that we lived at, and I just thought, you know what, I could just turn the wheel of the car right now and just flick my car into that tree and kill myself. And I'd never really gotten that bad with it before.
Mm,
It had been, I guess, trying to push it into this. I had this really good box of all the things I tried to not think about in my head, where I could just stick all the crap. Um, but it kind of felt like there was no more room in there for that.
wow.
And so I had one of those moments where it sort of like flashed forward into my head, because I'm a failure. I failed at being a husband and failed at being a business person and failed in my marriage, and my life is just a failure. I'm a failure. Um, and my head flashed forward to what it'd be like to be at my funeral and to see my parents and my friends and to everybody else just going, why the hell didn't you say anything? Why didn't you talk to us?
Yeah. Wow.
And it was that fear of failing them in my life that actually stopped me from doing it. And so after that, um, I got home and booked in to see my GP and got on some antidepressants, and that really helped me kind of re-regulate a little bit more in terms of my head. It's just so many internal thoughts and stuff going on about all this failure stuff. And then I got coaching, and there was a friend of mine who had done an NLP master practitioner course, and he started working with me to help me to kind of get my mindset back in tow.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really um, thanks to coaching that it really helped me to kind of move forward with that.
Amazing.
And after a few months, I stopped the medication. I then started to, look at what was next, and had a conversation with my wife and decided to sort of, split up and go our separate ways whilst we were still able to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sort of moved back to my parents' place and sort of hit the life reset button. But that was in my mid 30s.
Okay. Wow.
And
And that's quite a
yeah,
hard place to reset from.
yeah, yeah, because you think, oh, I should have achieved these things by now. We had the house and we were going on the holidays and we were doing all of those things, and now essentially you're starting again from not zero, but
Mm-hmm.
certainly negative amounts.
Yeah.
On the finances, and not in a great place from the health point of view, and all those kind of things. But then you start, what are the things that you can start to affect and pay attention to, and that's where the coaching really helped. I lost 6.5 stone in 9 months,
I
32
was
kilos.
going to say,
Yeah.
looking at you now, I'm amazed that you used to weigh that much, because you look very like fit and healthy now.
Yeah, I've certainly been fitter and healthier, and now, I'm
No one's
approaching my
perfect.
now I'm approaching my 50s, and being very heavy for a lot of my life. My knees are do not support the level of exercise I wish I could do sometimes. But yeah, I mean, certainly when I did I was doing 5K races and 10K races, and 2016 I even did a triathlon. And yeah, the when you start to change the mindset, all the other things sort of started to change. And then because of the coaching stuff, I got fascinated about NLP and coaching. And then back in 2012, that's when I retrained as an NLP trainer, and so went from the web and tech development into the people development side. And then subsequently got married again, and then we had a couple of daughters, and I've got a stepson, and my life's in a very, very, very different place to that Andy who, nearly rammed his car into a pine tree in a
Yeah.
forest in
Wow.
Hampshire.
So,
It's
so
very
what
different.
advice would you have for anyone who's feeling now like you were then?
The key thing is to start talking to people about it. Whether that's a charity that you can phone up and get some support with, or whether it's Samaritans because you're feeling in a really bad place, whether that's a coach that you would gel with. I found coaching was much better for me than things like psychotherapy and
Mhm.
counseling. I mean, I did try some of those things as well, but I felt like I was making an excuse as to why I was feeling like it, rather than just focusing on,
Mhm.
well, I'm here now.
Yeah.
And
And
so
I think I've been
yeah,
asked this before. The difference between therapy is it's looking back a lot of the
yeah,
time and
yeah,
dealing with what has happened. Whereas coaching is much more future focused and how do you want your life to be? So
exactly.
depending on the individual, coaching can be a much more productive way
Yeah,
to deal with any sort of mental health challenges that you're facing.
yeah,
For
definitely, because you can look at, how do I want to change the pattern that I'm in to be different for the future through coaching. That's why I'm a massive advocate for coaching. Whereas I always felt like I was making up reasons as to why it might have happened, looking backwards,
yeah,
and that seemed for me less relevant for what I needed to focus on. And so
well,
yeah, because of the coaching, and because of the coaching such an integral part of the leadership, that's also
mhm.
why
And
there's
you do leadership coaching as well, don't you?
yeah, yeah, oh yeah,
Not
yeah, I
just
do.
training. You do a lot.
No, I
You do
do
some
one-to-one
coaching.
coaching and leadership coaching, and all sorts. So but basically the key thing is, who can you go to who will give you some space and is able to listen to you.
Hmm.
Friends are great, don't get me wrong, but friends will often just tell you what to do, or they'll give you their perspective, or they won't necessarily hold a bit of space. That's why having somebody that's got some coaching training, who's slightly removed from where you are right now, and what position you're in, is super important, really useful, because otherwise you just get your own echo chamber back.
Hmm.
Or somebody will take somebody's side or whatever, whereas a coach ideally should be out of your stuff and just holding the space for you to explore it. um,
Yes.
and I think a good leader and a good manager should be able to do that. So that's the other part. The reason why I wrote the book is that people have got the skills to be slightly better coaches, because like I say, you never know what the effect of your interactions might have on other people.
100%.
And I've had people come up to me years later after seeing me at a talk and go, "Oh, that thing that you said at that moment in time, that made a massive difference to my life."
I love that. And you can't even remember giving the talk, probably.
No, you might remember the person, you might remember the talk often than not, because
Yeah, it's a bit of a
it
blur.
was relevant to them at that moment in time, in
Yeah,
their position,
yeah.
and that's what's most important.
That's beautiful. And honestly, I think the ripple effect from
Yeah,
your book is going to be massive. You're not even going to know 1% of the impact that that book has. And that's a beautiful thing.
thank you.
You're welcome. So, listen, this is probably the perfect time to wrap up. for our listeners who would like to connect with you and learn more about what you do, where can they find you?
So the easiest place to look at the moment is leadershipisaskill.com. All the details about me, and it's got my TEDx on there as well, and info about the book and courses and workshops. That's a good place to hunt me down from there.
Perfect.
And
So
social media, I'm all over that.
leadershipisaskill.com.
So,
And
yeah.
yes, you're also all over LinkedIn and other social media platforms. Well, Andy, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real pleasure having a chat today.
No worries. Thank you, Ruth.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening today. If you like what you hear, please hit subscribe and leave us a review. Even better, come connect with me, Ruth Ferreira, on LinkedIn and Instagram. I'd love to get to know you.